I got a lot of requests on this one when the news came out. Was it yesterday or maybe even the day before? And I wanted to go into just a little bit more detail as why or where I'm at with it. I know a lot of people were gonna think that, or they were going to think, my dog's hair is all over my microphone. How did that happen? But I know a lot of people thought that I was just gonna be stoked, and I am. But I have to be cautious with things like this. Now, let's take a look real quick so you guys can see. For those that just are completely new to what happened, DiDio is out as co-publisher. And yeah, he's out. And I want to be clear about something just really quick. Okay. A lot of people think that you can't separate. Same thing with Jim Lee. Everybody's good at certain things. Everybody's good at certain things. And I think that it's silly to kind of lose sight of that. And what I mean by that is just because someone is a great writer or wrote some decent things or did some decent artwork or something like that, and they slide into a new position does not mean that they are good for that position. And you can separate the two. You can say this guy was bad at doing this while also being good at doing that. Or this guy wrote a good story here and the other stories weren't that good. You can do that. Two things can be true. You know where I'm at with New 52. Dan DiDio, as co-publisher, that was his first big thing. And I can't even say that, okay, because it happened so early in his stint, that, okay, you can't be like, oh, well, it wasn't him that facilitated that. He filled other roles, as they mentioned. He was VP executive editor and a VP editorial. So he's been a part of decision-making for this company. And it's difficult to understand definitely what they do, what they deem as a publisher. We have an idea, but it's always hard to say with these businesses because, you know, definitely anybody that's been in the workforce, you understand that things, you know, the role that you fill with the same title in one company may be completely different from another. But now DC Dan DiDio is out, and I'm happy that he's out when you take into consideration what he's facilitated and what I would say was a decline. Now, you can make the argument that DC's rebirth, which was a positive on there, he facilitated that too. But the reason why I would not give him credit for that is because the only reason that's even a thing is because it corrected the mistakes that they made with New 52. Essentially wiping out everything that happened before, making it hard to pick up what's canon, what's not. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. I know a lot of people that are it's more normie favorable. I'll give you that, because it allowed people to start from issue one and, you know, really be in the same boat as people that's been reading these comic books for years. And some people look at the isolated stories and they say, well, this story was okay. Like, a lot of us, and I know I speak for a lot of you guys, maybe not all of you guys, but I know a lot of you guys agree with me on this. I take issue with comic books that ignore, definitely in mainstream comic books, that ignore the canon and the continuity of it all. So it's not just about telling a new isolated story. This is why I don't like these alternate universes. Maybe if you read books, just a comic book, just to get a story out of it, just to get riled up, that's fine. But a big part of why a lot of us, you know, we fell in love with the comic books is because of the canon element. The fact that you can have something that happened years ago and it's relevant to the story. It made the character who that character is today. To essentially wipe out all of that happened before it, a lot of people had a lot of issues with it. And that's why I had a big problem with it. And all Rebirth did, as good as it was, as good as it has been. I mean, we're still in that Rebirth era. Yes, it was a sort of title change, the whole DC universe thing. That's all it is, just piggybacking off what happened with Rebirth. But the only reason why people were stoked on Rebirth so much was because it overdid. Not overdid. I don't even know if that's a word. But the mistakes that they made with the New 52 Rebirth corrected some of them, and I think they're even coming out with another relaunch kind of thing, in which that does that even more. It goes even further than what it did to bring back some of the elements and some of those events, those historical events that we find to be really important to the character's development. You can't just wipe that stuff out, which is what they did with New 52. It was such a crime. We talked about that with like Wally West, how they basically tried to make it seem as a redhead Wally West, not the black one that they brought in. But they try to just wipe him from existence, you know? But look, the reason why I have to be cautious with it is because, yes, he's facilitated some odd things. And it's not just with the New 52. There's been some very, very bad, some people that have been writing stories that I feel like should not be until they can, even guys that are classic writers, talk about that with even Greg Rucka, you know, and people like that, and how they just could not stop wearing things on their sleeve when it comes to the political and social views. Talk about things like Lois Lane and She Number One. Like, the fact that was allowed to be put out was just crazy to me. But it's not just the New 52 thing. There's levels to it. But who do they replace them with? And that goes for anybody that's in a position of power. The guy they replace them with could be worse. God forbid. And I don't think I hope it's not like that. But I got to take it with a grain of salt. I can't just look at it and be like, yes, this guy that facilitated this era that I really, really disliked is out. Yes. That in itself, that alone is not good enough, because he could very well be worse or better than the person that they replace him with all their leadership positions. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. I love to get you guys' thoughts. Now you guys know mine. I like it, but I'm like cautious with it. Yes, he should be out, but if they are going to replace him with somebody that's just going to do the same thing or worse, that didn't do anything.